Let us go through file permissions in Hdfs. As we create the files, we can check the permissions on them using -ls command. You can see the example here. If you run this, you should be able to get the details about permissions on subfolders under this parent folder. Let me minimize it here. You can see the details. We should be able to interpret this information, and also we should be able to manage the permissions to grant permissions to other users. We'll go through the details as part of this topic. Now, typically the owner of the user space will have read, write, execute permissions, while members of the group specified as well as others have read and execute. So in this case, itversity is part of the group students. All the other members in this group will get read and execute permissions. All the other users than the members in students group as well as the owner himself will get read and execute permissions. And those are provided using these three bits. RWX stands for read, write and execute. RX stands for only read and execute permissions. We can change the permissions using Hadoop fs-chmod or Hdfs dfs-chmod. However, one can change the permissions of their own files. The super users can change the permissions of any files, but regular users like us will be able to change the permissions only for our files. We can specify permissions mode or octal mode. Example for permissions mode is nothing but +X to grant execute access to owner group as well as others. With respect to octal mode, example is 755 to grant read, write, execute for owner, RX for group and others. If you are not familiar with Linux command chmod, we would highly recommend you to spend some time to get detailed understanding of it, as it is very important with respect to file permissions. Hdfs dfs-chmod is actually copied from chmod command. All the features related to chmod command is copied and implemented with Hdfs dfs-chmod command. That being said, now let's see how to grant write permissions on the folder to others. We can actually say O for others and then +W, which will grant write permissions to others. Let's run this and then let's run this command. You will see that others have write permissions on orders folder. You can see the details of the folder here. We can also grant write permissions on the folder to group. In this case, I'm using order items as the target folder on which we want to play with permissions. G+W, G for group, will grant the write permissions on that folder for all the members in the group. Let's run this and then run this. It will take care of granting write permissions to other members in the group to order items folder. You can see the details here. We can remove write permissions for everyone. In this case, if you just say -W without U or G or O, it will actually act on owner, group as well as others. If you see, I'm just saying -W or -W. Earlier, I have used G or O for others and group. For everyone, we don't need to specify anything here. You just say -W, it will revoke write permissions from owner also. Let's run this and let's run ls command as well. Let me copy this and paste it here and then run this. Now if you go to orders, let me minimize it here. This is the one we are talking about. You can see even owner doesn't have write permissions. So this is how you should be able to revoke permissions from everyone. Once the permissions are revoked, no files can be copied to the folder or can be deleted from the folder. You can see that this command will fail. I'm trying to remove the file from orders folder. You can see it is complaining saying that permission denied. This is another example. In this case, we are trying to revoke the permissions from order items. Now, if you run this, even on order items, the permissions are revoked. You can see the order items details here. Now we can add write permissions only to owner. Now the owner will be able to delete the file, but others cannot. So you have to use U+W to grant permissions to the owner. U stands for user in this case. Let's run this. And then let's remove this by running this command, and you should be able to delete the file from this folder because the owner have permissions on the folder. Anything under that folder can be managed as long as he have permissions on the underlying files as well. Now you should be able to run this command to grant write permissions on order items as well. You should be able to validate by running this. You can see that for orders and order items, owner itversity have write permissions, because we have used U+W, but the members in the group and others doesn't have write permissions. You can see here. Now let us go through the details using octal format. First, let's run this command. You should be able to review the permissions here. These 3 bits are for user level. Then these 3 bits are for group level, and then these 3 bits are for other level. You should be able to map this to binary as well as decimal format. If you have hyphen 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 here, it means 000. If you have RWX like this, it means 111. For this case, it is nothing but 101 because we have hyphen in the middle. Same is the case with this one, it is 101. Here is the mapping with the permissions R-X in octal mode and decimal value. In octal mode, it is 101, or in binary mode, it is 101. The corresponding decimal value is 5. If it is RWX, the corresponding decimal value is 7. Using these decimal values, we should be able to set the permissions using octal mode. This is actually binary. The octal mode means specifying the permissions using the decimal values corresponding to the permission mode. So in this case, this can be interpreted as 755. You have to be clear on this. Now let's understand how to grant write permissions on the folder to others. I'll be granting write permissions on orders to others, and we have to retain the existing permissions. As of now, the existing permissions on orders is nothing but 755, and we want to set this bit, and hence we have to change the permissions for others to 7. For others such as user and groups, the permissions should be retained, and hence we have to pass 75 for them. For this, we have to change from 5 to 7. So we have to say 757 to grant write permissions on a folder to others. In this case, we are trying to achieve that on orders. Once we run this, and once we run this command, we should be able to review the permissions. So we have successfully granted write permissions on folder orders to others. Let's see how to grant write permissions on the folder to group. As of now, the permissions on the folder order items is 755, and we have to set to 775 so that the group members get write permissions on that folder. Let's run this, and then let's run this. We should be able to review the permissions on order items. It is nothing but read, write, execute, and read, write, execute for user and group. For others, it is just read and execute. We can remove write permissions for everyone by saying 555, which means it will be R-X, R-X, R-X for everyone. Let's run this on orders as well as order items, and let's review the permissions. You should be able to see only read and execute for both orders and order items for all users, groups, and others. We should be able to add write permissions only to owner by saying 755. As of now, it is 555. Now we are setting to 755 so that the user or owner will get read, write as well as execute permissions on these folders. Let's run these commands, and then let's run this command. Ensure that the user got the write permissions on orders as well as order items folder. So this is how you should be able to grant the permissions to user, members in the group, or others, either by using permissions mode as well as octal mode. Just make sure that you understand the details about how to interpret the permissions and also how to change the permissions if at all it is required. Most likely, as developers, we will not be changing permissions on files or folders like this. However, in some cases, we might run into issues such as permission denied. If we run into such kind of issues, one of the area which you should be focusing on in the pursuit of troubleshooting is nothing but permissions on files and folders. Unless and until you understand the nuances of it, you will not be able to troubleshoot the issue and get the solution for the problem. So just to make sure that you understand the concept of file permissions, how to get the information and interpret the information to ensure whether the users have appropriate permissions or not on top of files or folders.